Have fallen to 5-year lows. At last check, it was trading at around about 10 Rand 80 against the dollar. Economists say that in the medium term, this could be good for the South African economy and that the cheaper currency can benefit the economy. But towards the end of 2013, Barry Sargent released a book entitled The Assault on the Rand, and he joins us now for a little bit more analysis. I mean, I'm just looking at the currency there. It's 10.90 actually this morning. Good to have you, Barry. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. Good morning.
So I introduced this saying that the Rand falling could be good for the economy. Do you think that?
No.
No.
No, we don't want a weak currency. We want a stable currency. So people everywhere in government and in business, and especially the little businesses, are able to plan the year ahead. When we have a weak currency in the longer term and the medium term, it's going to hurt you no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, you wrote this book at the end of last year, and I mean, you obviously would know. I'm not quite familiar. What was the currency looking like at the end of last year?
It was looking vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I decided to focus on the Rand in this book. Out of all the subjects that I could have got down to last year, I thought the Rand was the most topical and something that, you know, South Africans should, let's say, learn more about. And that's what the book goes out to do.
So just to learn more about the currency. You talk about the fact that we need a stable currency.
Yeah.
But if we have a stable currency, what would you think is the ideal rate for our currency to be at? If we just take the dollar as an example.
Well, it's very difficult to go backwards to say when the Rand was 5 to the dollar. At the moment, it's, as you mentioned, 10.90.
Yeah.
Let's just call it 10 in round terms. If it stays there for the foreseeable future, then at least we have stability in our planning. And when it comes to the exporters and the importers, they can balance their books in the currency sense and rather focus on other things. It was said many years ago, and I believe it's absolutely right, that the price of a currency is the most important price in the economy.
Yeah.
So you can look at the price for maize and bread and petrol and so on, but the price of the Rand is absolutely crucial to every other price that follows from there. So we need that stability.
I've always been under the impression that the currency is kind of like the share price of a country. Is that one way of looking at it?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a basic way of looking at it, but I think that's the indication of how a country's doing. So if we look at our currency now, how are we doing? Why is it not doing so well?
We're not doing well at all. Probably, if you had to single it out, there are probably about 20 things. But if you had to single out the main factor, we have been exporting less and less, and we're importing more and more. And a lot of what we import are consumables, you know, smartphones and TVs and that kind of thing. We need to import more capital goods and refocus on industry.
Yeah, so that could help us. What about the interest rates? I mean, we've kept these interest rates on hold for quite some time. Could we possibly be seeing in the next MPC meeting that our Reserve Bank Governor, Jill Marcus, decides, look, the currency not looking good, we need some higher interest rates? Is that a possibility? Could that help?
Yeah, very much so. Because we import a lot more than what we export, our deficit, our current account deficit, is financed by foreign inflows. And those are attracted to the country because we have high interest rates, relatively. And to do anything for the currency, the one thing which can be done would be to raise interest rates. And right now, if you look at the fundamentals for the Rand, they are weak, and we need to do something as a country.
Yeah, I mean, we look back at, we were just chatting a little bit briefly off here, and we were looking at 2001 when the currency was sitting at, what, 13.80 against the dollar?
Yes.
That's not far away from where we're sitting right now.
No. That's very much what I focused on in the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
2001 and the currency collapsing. And that's another very interesting thing where we see in the book, I believe, that there were various parties that manipulated the Rand. So it's another vulnerability for the Rand, and it faces the same vulnerability right now. Yeah. You can't take that out of the equation. So it's yet another thing to worry about.
Well, another thing to worry about, or is it perhaps not a thing to worry about? We're in an election year, and whether we like it or not, there are going to be a lot of things that are said and done in the run-up to these elections. Is this going to affect our currency as well?
I believe so, yeah.
You think so as well?
There's a lot of political concern this year, political risk, and with the Rand going down almost by the day, your basic prices are rising at a rapid rate. Meal, petrol, etc., they're all going up. And that is going to feed into, I believe, one of the main factors around the elections.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there must be some sectors, well, there certainly are some sectors that benefit from this weaker currency.
They do. All the exporters benefit. There's no question about that. The mining companies, the farmers, etc., they benefit from a weaker rand. But sooner or later, the weaker rand will catch up with them because they have input costs like petrol, like energy, and those costs will come back and bite them. It's not a sustainable situation.
All right. So, The Assault on the Rand. The book is in bookstores around the country. The riding message of this book, what would you say it is?
I think it is that we could have learned, as a country, we could have learned a lot of lessons from what happened in 2001. We didn't learn lessons. If we did, we didn't apply any of the possible, let's say, factors that could have defended the rand in the long term. And still today, we need to once again examine what is going on with the rand and to take measures as a country to look after it. It is a precious commodity.
Sure. I'm reading at the back of the book here, you say that, I mean, we're talking about Kevin Wakeford here. He predicted that the rand was on its way, this is back in 2001, to 20, 30, 40, or even possibly 50 to the dollar, which would have thrown the 7-year-old democracy into economic and political turmoil. Please tell me that that's not what we're looking at.
Well, touch wood, it's not going to happen. But I think it is at the remote a possibility. And that is why I would argue we need to take a national stance on the rand and all the factors that affect the value of the rand.
Yeah. All right. Interesting read. Barry Sargent, that book around the country at the moment. And I think get out there and get a copy if this is what you're interested in, reading The Assault on the Rand. Kevin Wakeford and the Battle to Save the Currency. Thanks for joining us, Barry Sargent.